Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is Linda Lamp here, and I'm here with my co-host, Mary Ardania, and we are going to undertake the conversation of Let's Become a Beloved Society. This is Conversations Illuminating Your Path to Wholeness. We welcome your call and participation. Hello, Amber. We have somebody in the audience. Wonderful. Welcome back, Amber. It's always lovely to have you here. For those of you listening after the fact, you can tune in live. These broadcasts are done on Friday mornings. Starting in Alaska, it's Friday morning, or Hawaii, it would be 10 a.m. Alaska, it's 11 a.m. And then starting at California, it becomes noon and working its way later in the day as you go across the country. So you can always join us live if you like. It's good to see you too. And you can also visit my websites, lindalamp.com and lindalamp.shop, if you have questions or would like to know more about what I do. The one conversation that one question that came up that I wanted to start with is how do we become a beloved society? And I think the easiest answer to that question is that we discover divine love within ourselves, for ourselves, and others. We have another person that's just joined us live. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Welcome to we're happy to have you here. So we become a beloved society through the process of love. And when we're talking about love, we're talking about the divine love of creation. There are a lot of different kinds of love. And I know when I was introducing the concept of We Love Us, which is an acronym for 8 statements that would change the world. If everyone were to simply adopt living through those 8 statements, and you can find those on the website, lindalamp.com, we would change the world immediately. It's the kind of love that is of creation. If you want to call it God, if you want to call it universe, it doesn't really matter. It's the love of source. It's how we all came to be here in physical form. Mary?
Can I add something here?
Absolutely.
So, like for me, when I started doing energy healing, this became really clear for me because Reiki. So it's like I did theta healing, and we did this thing that was downloading love, like source love, that energy. And then I was doing Reiki. And the idea of Reiki is that Reiki is the life force energy that is in everything. And in the course of this, I realized that those things felt identical to me. So the life force energy that is in everything felt the same as when I was downloading unconditional love from source. Like those feel the same to me. So that's when I really grasped this idea that love is the material, the energy. Love is the energy that makes up everything, that alives everything. Like that. There's words that express that better, but you know what I mean.
I
That
do.
fuels life in everything.
Right.
So I just wanted to share that that's when that really became crystallized clearly for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because I
Mhm.
think understanding how we experience that feeling of love is very important, and people will experience it different ways and through different processes. So that's Reiki is certainly definitely one way to do that, and I'm glad you shared that with us. So that's the short answer to how are we going to become a beloved society. It's and I believe in the process, using the process of We Love Us, which again is the acronym for 8 statements. And I don't want to get side railed, so I don't want to go down that path and go all the way into what all that stands for right now. But basically, we could all adopt a creed that would get us there very quickly. It's just a matter of choice and understanding, I think. And so, and I don't think we're there yet. And in fact, I'm going to be releasing a version 2.0 of We Love Us, because I believe it came out. I'd have to go back and look what year I released We Love Us, or that it came through me and was ready to be presented to the world. But it's incomplete because it's We Love Us, all of us. And so that's going to be the part 2, will be the all of us, and it will add some additional statements to help clarify the process of how we would get there.
Yeah, it's easier to we love us when we're just us here in this circle. It's much easier to feel that oneness and that love when you're in the circle of the like-minded people and all. But when you're out there in the world where you have all the people, even the ones we don't agree with, it can be a little more complicated.
Exactly, and harder to achieve. Exactly. And so Amber says, becoming a beloved society is very possible if we each clean up our thinking and take responsibility for our actions. And that's beautiful, Amber, because that really is the crux of it, isn't it?
And also, it's very simple. I really think that, that whole thing with Jesus, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's a pretty good golden rule,
Right.
like if
Right.
we all did that, if we all treated everybody out there the way we wish to be treated, and so that means when you see the homeless person on the street, how would you want to be treated if that was you?
Right.
When you see whoever that is, the cranky
Right.
guy yelling in your face, even,
Right.
how would I want to be met if I was that unconscious?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
It's a pretty
Right.
good rule. It's a good start.
It
And then
is a
you
good
go out
start.
more from there, and more nuances and things.
Yes.
But it's a great start.
It's a perfect start. Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Jesus, because that's a nice segue into the other first question that I wanted to undertake today. So I have done a lot of readings of A Course in Miracles. You can find those on YouTube. I did a whole year of daily lessons. So we worked all the way through A Course in Miracles daily lessons. And I've gotten, I think, through chapter 26 in the course materials. Then COVID hit, and life just sort of changed for a while. It is my intention to finish up the readings of the Course in Miracles, of A Course in Miracles. Hopefully this year we'll get all of that done. So I have at least, I think I met Amber through my work through A Course in Miracles. And I believe there may be somebody else watching today, or at least waiting for this replay, because this question came from a gentleman on YouTube that is studying A Course in Miracles. And he says, there's a preacher on YouTube who's saying you can only hear Jesus in the Bible, and that the book, ACIM, A Course in Miracles, is the book of the devil. Can you please help me with this? And then subsequent to that, there was another conversation where there was another video he had found by a woman, and I don't have her name handy, suggesting that you should throw the Course in Miracles away because it's heresy. And so I wanted to, let's just, first of all, for the people that are not familiar with what it is, A Course in Miracles, also referred to by, it's also called ACIM, or the Course by some people, is a book that was released in 1976. It's a channeled piece. The channel's name was Helen Schuchman. That's Schuchman. Schuschman. And I'm reading this from Wikipedia. The underlying premise is that the greatest miracle is the act of simply gaining a full awareness of love's presence in a person's life. And so they don't specify divine love's presence, but that's what it is, right? Because we need to differentiate, because a lot of people, when they hear the word love, they immediately think, it depends on where they are in their life, but they're going to think of one of two kinds of loves. They're either going to think of paternal, maternal love, love of a parent, grandparent, love of the child, of the mother, all of that, or they're going to think of amorous love, intimate love, love that you have exchange with a partner, whether that be a partner of the same sex or an opposite sex, doesn't matter. It's that intimate love. Those tend to be the two kinds of love that people think of when you say the word love. And so it's important really to understand that in the work that we're doing here and in the conversations that we're having here, we're speaking of divine love, the presence of divinity within us, and understanding really that there isn't anything else. Divinity is what created everything that we experience, ourselves and everything else. And so that's the framework of love, and that is the framework within which A Course in Miracles is intended to exist, right? The underlying premise is that the greatest miracle is the act of simply gaining a full awareness of, of divinity's love's presence in a person's life. So now let's go back to these questions. The preacher who's saying you can only hear Jesus in the Bible and that the book is heresy, and also that there's a woman suggesting we should throw the book out. I've had conversations with people that may be watching where I've said, throw the book out. But that doesn't mean the book doesn't have value, right? The book in and of itself has an enormous amount of value to it. The way I like to describe it, however, because it is what we call a channeled material. So it came through Helen. Think of it as coming through or having to go through a river. If you look into a muddy river, it's going to be hard to see the bottom. If you look into a crystal clear river, it's going to be easy to see the bottom. And Helen is somewhere in between. Helen is not necessarily a muddy river, but she is not a crystal clear river either. So there are things that are not clear as they could be and are skewed in ways that they shouldn't be in A Course in Miracles. That does not, however, mean there is no value in the Course in Miracles, first of all. I just wanted to say that. You want to add anything to that, Mary?
At some point, I want to say my piece about A Course in Miracles, but I can wait until you're done if I want. I mean,
go ahead now.
There's definitely value in it. So, like, I came to A Course in Miracles through a book that was excerpts from A Course in Miracles. I don't know offhand what it was called right now, but it's like, this is a book of all the little gems. And there was a lot of value in that book. And then I tried to read the actual A Course in Miracles, and it's like, oh my God, digging through a mudslide to find the little diamond at the bottom. So that book I love, and I believe Marianne Williamson was one of the editors of it. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe she wrote the foreword or something. But, that's where I kind of learned about her connection with that work. And the real nugget that I got from A Course in Miracles, which relates to what you're saying, that it's about the presence of love. Everything is either love or a cry for love. So it was a way for me to understand the seeming unconscious things that people do and how that could be how everything could be love if that stuff is there. Oh, that's a cry for love. And the other thing is, if you're in a situation and you can't find the love in it, that means that you're the one who's supposed to bring the love. So basically, those are the two nuggets from that course that I got that have revolutionized my life. That said, I have never actually read the big book itself. And I've listened to you read some of those chapters. And I told you at the time, I often fell asleep listening to you read because you have a lovely voice and I get very comfortable and relaxed. And there's so much murk to dig through. So that's how I feel about A Course in Miracles. But would I say it's of the devil and you should throw it out? I would not say that. But I agree that it's not necessarily the clearest channeled material. Maybe you could get the same thing from the words of Jesus, but I think a lot of the Bible is just as useless as A Course in Miracles. So go ahead and burn me as a heretic right now.
Well, you just got there ahead of me. That's all, because I want to acknowledge some of the comments that Amber has made. ACM is hard to read for sure. And also that if everything is either love or a call for love, then all there is love. Right. Exactly. And so I agree. Now, one of the things that I was going to say is I think it's fascinating that people don't seem to acknowledge that the Bible is a compilation of many different rivers, right? Because many people wrote what we call the Bible.
Yes.
And many people have edited. So one of my beefs as a very young child was this idea that there was a King James Bible. What did that mean? Because that's political, right? A king, that's a form of government, and yet there's a King James Bible. And from very early on, all of this bothered me. And it bothered me to the point where I went out and researched and found, and I intended to have that handy to reference, and I didn't do it. But I'm not going to try and multitask here now and do it. But I discovered a copy of a Bible. The translation is from George Lamas, I believe, and it's from the Peshitic. What I wanted as original a text as I could find. So before too many people got their fingers in it, including kings, right, as editors, those were chapters that were removed.
Yeah, that was the thing that I was going to say. It's a lot of rivers, but also there's the rivers that were thrown out.
Right.
Mary Magdalene's gospel of Thomas.
Right. And understanding ultimately that the reason there are missing chapters in the Bible, and the reason that you can lay out numerous different editions and read the same passage and get really different meanings out of what is supposed to be the exact same passage, is because so many people have had their fingers in it. Now, why? You might ask yourself, what other book do we all reference in this, sacred way? What other book has been so edited and rewritten and altered? And why? And I believe the why is for control.
Yeah.
I believe the why, the removal of information from the Bible, was done specifically to disempower us as a people.
It was. Jesus was a radical. And the Bible as it exists, I mean, that happened with, what's his name? Constantine, when he sort of decided to become a Christian in order to control the people.
Right. Right. So now let's go back to these questions about the priest or the guy on YouTube, saying that you can only hear Jesus through the Bible, and then the lady saying, to throw the book out, it's heresy. Anyone who is so sure that they know exactly what the truth is and that you should throw any book out has really sort of lost their way in the process of life, because these things are just tools. All of these things are ultimately just tools. And when you are at the level of tools, you are so let's go back for a second and kind of reference what we talked about earlier. We talked about, not today, but last week, we talked about new paradigm, old paradigm, new paradigm. So in the old paradigm, we use these tools. We use the Bible. We use A Course in Miracles. We use the Gita. I mean, there's all kinds of tools that are out there, correct? But when we move into the new paradigm, those are reference materials, but they no longer are tools. We don't need them, because we're moving old paradigm, separation, new paradigm, unity. So the way, ultimately, like where we started, ultimately the way we become a beloved society is we invoke the divine love within us, which then will connect us to everything and everyone else. We don't need to go through a tool. Ultimately, we don't need to go through Jesus.
Right.
Although what I will say from my own personal experience is that Jesus resides within all of us.
Right.
Jesus is available to anyone whose heart is open enough to allow him in.
Yeah, one way I've heard that explained is that Christ is a consciousness, it's not about a specific person. It's a consciousness that we can all tap into, the consciousness that Jesus, the person, had of his divinity. I mean, that thing where Jesus said he was the Son of God, and in religion it's been twisted so that he's the Son of God and I'm not, we're not. I don't believe that's what Jesus meant. I believe Jesus meant, I'm the Son of God, and we're all the children of God. We're all part of that beloved family. And I believe that that's the consciousness he was trying to bring to, his disciples and the world. And if we all felt that and lived that, there's some people who have control who might be worried. So that's why, I watched a show on PBS a long time ago that was about early Christianity. And that's when I decided that I didn't have to throw out the baby Jesus with the bathwater of religion, And the books that they chose for the Bible were the books that were designed to focus on Jesus's life rather than his teachings, right? They specifically excluded the books that were more about his teachings, like the Gospel of Thomas. And so, yeah, I don't know. I lost my train, but that's, had something to do with what you were saying, I think.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that Kelly has posted a question.
I have. But I want to
Finish what you're talking about
finish
first.
this subject before we move on, because I
Yeah.
think that's I think that that's a worthy conversation to have. So, one of the other things to clarify too, because I heard someone actually who's been studying Christianity and Jesus and religion for probably 50 years, and very recently made the statement, I always thought Jesus came to start a new religion. And now I understand that's not what he came to do at all. Right.
Right.
And that's really fundamental. I think a lot of people have become confused and lost. Jesus came because we are lost through and I'm going to explain this the way I believe it happened, through the insight that I have and what I've been given, is that very early on, Adam, Eve, not long after that, maybe right with Adam and Eve. That's where I think it happened, is right with Adam and Eve. There was an unintended consequence of creation. It was a necessary thing. Gravity is a necessary thing in our world to keep things on the planet, because otherwise we're hurtling through space and nothing would stay put. So we created gravity in order to have this planet where we could create these things and watch them move around and experience them moving around and be moving around with them. And so very early on, I believe with the original humans that were formed, a forgetting happened, a forgetting of our divinity, of our divine form, of the divine love that created us, and of our divine purpose. And we've gone on in physical form to replicate and replicate and replicate. And at some point, Jesus came along to try and tell everybody, hey, you guys, you sort of a little off here. You could look at what I can do. I can do it because I remember, I know, and I can show you could do this too. You just have to remember as well.
Right.
That's really the brunt of it.
We lost the script.
Right. You're all off script. You've all walked out of the theater. You're wandering around doing this other play that isn't the divine play. It isn't what we came here to do, right? Which was to experience heaven on earth. That's what we're here to do. And instead, it's one war after another, pretty much. So Jesus comes along to try and clue us in that we're off script. And what happens? People can't handle it. They kill him. And then they create a religion around him, which was never his intention. That wasn't what he wanted. No. It wasn't the point. And here we are. Here we are now. So anybody who's saying, throw this out, throw that out, you're in the third dimension, in the old paradigm, messing around with tools, and tools that might serve you, but tools that also won't serve you.
Thinking that the tools are the point.
Exactly.
When the tools are signposts. Like that's what it says, like in the Tao Te Ching, right. The Tao that can be told is not the Tao.
Right.
Like the words are not the truth. They're signposts to the truth.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So I don't know if that completely answers the questions about A Course in Miracles. Well, here's the other thing. Let's talk about the devil for a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Because both of the personalities that are suggesting that you should not pay any attention to the Course in Miracles because it's been influenced, or it's the devil, or whatever.
The devil's work.
Well, yeah, the devil's work.
Yes.
Again, old paradigm. There isn't a devil. There isn't. That concept is a concept created in order to control people. Everything that exists, whether you like it or not, whether it's in your world or not, is made of the same stuff, came from the same place, and that is divine love.
Yep.
That is the only thing that has creative power, and it is ultimately the only thing that exists. Now I'm going to mute and cough.
Oh.
Okay, I'm back. Amber says there is no devil. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no devil. And so, in both circumstances, in the video, I was given the link to the video of the lady that was saying that, throw the book away. And I think within 33 seconds, she had used the term the devil. At which point I just, because of what I was in the middle of, I just stopped. I did go back and listen to the whole thing later. It was about 15 minutes long. But initially, the minute anyone says anything about the devil, you've lost me, because
Me too.
that's a fantasy, right? If you're living in a world where you believe a devil exists, you've really been misled, and I encourage you to broaden your view. Let's see. Okay, so Amber's saying the ACIM says the devil is the same as the ego, and that is fear, and fear isn't real. Well, fear is real. The experience of fear is absolutely real. There's I can't dispute that. Whether we need to be fearful is really the question, right? So I'm someone who would say I'm not afraid of anything. And the reason I can say that is because I am fully aware that everything that is happening is of divine nature. And so I may not understand it. I may not like it. But that doesn't mean that there's anything inherently wrong with it.
Right.
Or yeah, there may be the appearance, the appearance of things being wrong, and even the appearance of things being inappropriate. But it's truly the key is, where do you put your focus, right? Are you internally focused, or are you externally focused? Mary.
Fear is the housing's reaction to a feeling of being threatened. Yes, it's the ego. The ego's job is to keep the housing alive, right? So fear is what happens when the ego feels the housing is threatened.
Right.
So that's absolutely real as a physical reaction in the animal body. But what's not real is the threat. Like the perceived threat, the ego perceives the threat to the physical body and thinks that means death. What's not real is that death can happen to the spirit, because the spirit is eternal. Right. And when the physical body ends, that doesn't mean that we are ended. And also, as Linda has said, the physical, everything is perfect. And like even the time of our death, you have said, someone says, we choose that. Like it's all perfect as it unfolds. So like my body might feel threatened. My ego might feel like, I have to take care of the body. But even if that truck does hit me and smash me like a bug, that's because it was my time to be smashed like a bug and be done with this physical body. And then the energy that is alivening, I don't know why I can't think of animating these words today, that energy is eternal. You
Right.
know, I
Right.
won't say the energy of Mary, because Mary is one incarnation of
Right.
that energy, but the
Right.
energy that is animating this version of me,
Right.
that energy is eternal. So that's why ultimately fear is not necessary, but the actual physical response of fear is not an illusion. That's very real
Right. Right.
in our
Right. So,
physical animal bodies.
right. And that's something Amber put in here. Yes, fear feels real, but isn't it an illusion? And Mary, you did a great job. I think I'll just try and add a little to it. So, there is nothing to be afraid of, ever,
Right.
under any circumstance, for any reason. And I think a way that we might dig into it a little harder is to look at it from, not from the fear side, but look at it from, what is happiness? Most people in the world think that happiness is somehow dependent on something external. We think that when we get a better job, we'll be happier. We think that if we get a better house, or if we finally find our soulmate, or if we get to move to a different town or country, that these things will make us happy. And ultimately, the way, and this ties back to actually how we become a beloved society, ultimately, we need to come to the realization that our happiness comes from within. And once we make that shift, then everything else falls into place. But happiness is truly not dependent on anything external. And if you've made your happiness dependent upon those things, then you have rooted yourself in what we call old paradigm.
A way I find it useful to think of this, for me, I divide it between happiness and joy. Like, happiness is that thing that relies on the external. You know, I'll be happy when I get a new car or a new job, or I was very happy because I won a $150 Amazon gift card yesterday. I mean, seriously, I'm happy about that. Um, but joy, like when I close my eyes and go inside and connect to the love and the, or like out in nature can be a way, like when I connect to the experience of being alive, my joy is here inside me. And that, it's like a never ending fountain. It's
Right.
like the love. The joy
Exactly.
is like the
Exactly.
innate joy of being alive. That
Right.
we all have that.
Right.
And we all
Right.
have access to that
Exactly.
if we know how to get there. So,
Right.
if your happiness is linked to your innate joy of being alive,
Right.
you know, then it's very easy to be happy all the time. And,
Right.
I've said for a long time, happiness is an inside job.
It
And
is.
that's a good way to understand that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And that that actually, I think, is a great segue to take us into Kelly Lamb's comment, because what the question on the floor is, my issue is not with about loving all, but loving while setting boundaries and being able to say no. I believe this is my lesson to learn in life right now. Please help. So, life is really intended to be celebrated. And it's interesting, Matt Kahn just did a
Woohoo.
talk not that long ago, just a few days ago, about this exact topic, that if we are not, each of us individually, celebrating every moment, then we're off script, basically. Those are my words. And so all of this is about coming into ourselves, each of us individually, and finding a way to be cognizant in every moment that this is a wondrous, miraculous experience that we're having. To conceptualize the miracle of it, to really wrap your arms around what a gift it is just to be here. Now, and hang on, I need to cough again. Thanks. We really are so bogged down in this physical realm, and so few people talk about what we're talking about on a daily basis. It's not what we hear in the news. It's not what you read about in the paper or on the web or, anywhere that you're reading things or listening to things. Unless you're seeking out these conversations, you're likely not having them. They're not happening. And yet, every single one of us is participating in this co-creation that we call life. And the way we're going to move from old paradigm to new paradigm is for as many of us as possible to adopt a persistent desire to stay in the miracle of the moment, regardless of what the miracle of the moment is presenting us with. And so, and then the other piece of that I think applies particularly in Kelly's case is to realize that we need to start here internally. And when we're in a place where we're needing to set boundaries, right? This is called self-care.
Yeah.
This is really called self-care. And it's not unlike when you're in the airplane and they say, put your mask on, oxygen mask on before you put somebody else's on. You must come into yourself. We each must come into ourselves and recognize the gift that we have in our creation and existence. This was not random. And yes, your parents had something to do with it, but they didn't have everything to do with it. They didn't start it. You and your relationship with the divine started it. People say, oh, our parents, we chose our parents, they chose us. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. But before you ever did any choosing, you decided to come. You said yes. We each said yes to being here. And then what happened? We got here and we're like, no, I don't like this. No. Right? Mary, you have something?
Yeah, I would like to say something. So, I think that we are programmed, certainly women, to put everyone else's needs ahead of ours. So, learning to say no and set boundaries can be very difficult, especially if you're trying to be a good little girl when you're younger, and now you're a grown woman and you're still trying to be, liked and loved and seen in a positive light. So, what it is we have to know that it's okay to put our needs on the same level as other people's needs, possibly even a little higher, since self-care, put on our mask first before we worry about their mask. Our needs, it's our job to self-care is our job. It's our job to attend to ourselves, to love ourselves, to treat ourselves with the same care as we would treat, a special little child whom we really love, like maybe little internal Mary and little girl Kelly, and it's like, if we are, as we insist we are, this like divine energy come down here to live itself and live its life, then our needs are just as valid as anybody else's, right? You are divine, Kelly, just like I am, and you deserve to have your needs met, and you deserve to be able to set a boundary with someone. Like, that is your divine right. And sometimes, in order to say yes to yourself, we have to say no to other people. That's what it is, that boundary that we have to set. It's saying no to them, but it's saying yes to ourselves. And we deserve that. And we are entitled to that. And that's some serious indoctrination and training that we have to get over. And that's also a lot of what the Jesus story as a religion is, very like self-victimizing, sort of like Jesus went and got crucified for our sins. Holy crap. Like, if we're supposed to emulate that, how are we supposed to say no to someone who wants to walk all over us? So that's another element of the control aspect, I think, of the Jesus story. And we don't have to buy into that aspect of it. And we're all deserving of love and the best possible heaven on earth experience. And we deserve to take care of ourselves, and that means we deserve to be able to set boundaries with people. I hope that's
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mary. Amber shares a couple of comments. We should be celebrating every moment. Crap will still hit the fan, and who we show up as when that happens is very important. And also, I had to learn to lovingly set boundaries, and it ticked a few of my friends and family off. So be it. I can't help how they're going to respond to me taking care of myself. And this really touches
Exactly.
on one of the very hardest things, right? One of the reasons, like, if you ever did any work in the field of domestic violence, one of the most frustrating things, if you're an advocate for women, is that women will go back to these situations. They'll get out, you'll help them, and somehow they end up going back. And the reason that that happens is that our housing that we are residing in is wired for certain things. And one of the things that our housing doesn't like is change. And often what will happen is our housing will choose for us what is comfortable. And what is comfortable, what is known. It might not be comfortable that you're getting slapped or hit or kicked or whatever the abuse may be. That isn't where the comfort is. The comfort is in knowing that that's what's going to happen. You take yourself out of that situation and try to put yourself into a different situation that you've never been in before, and it can be more frightening than actually putting up with the abuse. And so that's why a lot of times women will go right back into those situations, because we are creatures of habit, And we are creatures of comfort. And what's comforting to us is what's familiar. May not be what we like, but it's familiar. And so we can predict it. And we know how to deal with it. And we have our defenses all worked out.
Yeah.
Mary.
Also, to that thing that Amber says about I can't help how they are going to respond to me taking care of myself. This is really important because so often, I mean, I like to read advice columns sometimes, and people want to know, how do I break up with my boyfriend or girlfriend without hurting their feelings? And the answer is you don't. You can't. Their feelings will be hurt if they care about you. And
Right.
that's life, you know? It's like sometimes the things we say and do to take care of ourselves, not that we're being mean or anything, but like, you know, you might disappoint somebody, somebody might be hurt. And we have to be okay to not to run around stomping on people and hurting them. You know, I'm very gentle in how I try to say difficult things because I myself am very easily hurt. But it's like, we can't take responsibility for how everybody responds to us when we are being our truest divine self. We can, you know, be accountable if we hurt someone by accident or whatever, but basically when you take care of yourself, if people are used to you letting them run roughshod all over you, there is a possibility that they will get upset with you and have a negative reaction. And so we have to be okay with that. That's another part of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And, you know, the only way we can grow in life is learning how to be a little bit okay, you know, with being at the edge of our comfortable zone.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. So, and I think this is a good segue to come back to a conversation that we had earlier. Few, I'm not sure which episode it was, uh, but we talked about. I brought up the fact that there was a movie, and it's a Jim Carrey movie. I went back and I did a little research. I believe it's Jim Carrey, and the movie was Yes Man. And in that movie it suggested, you know, just saying yes to whatever shows up.
mhm.
And I think it's interesting because just I believe last week Matt Kahn did a whole segment on saying yay to what shows up. And I wanted to touch on it because I like yay is easier, much easier to say
Then
to
yes.
than yes to certain things,
Yeah.
like to unpleasant things. Um, for example, this morning, and in this call, uh, so what I find fascinating is the energy, right? We talked about this, we had this conversation about saying yes with life, and now someone else in this same genre and field, bigger following than I have,
Yes.
um, is saying is having a conversation about the same thing, about saying yes and using that as a process to help break down these barriers of the persistent 3D world that
Yeah.
makes us think all of this is real, right? And so Matt was suggesting that life, as we've talked about, is meant to be celebrated. And so he even dared his community. He dared everybody in his community to try it for a week. And he suggested that after 72 hours, if you were to do it in a committed way for 72 hours, that at the end of that 72 hours, all of your judgments would fall away. And so I wanted to bring that up again, um, because for example, this morning, as I'm getting ready to come to the studio and do this podcast, I'd made myself some coffee to bring with me, because one thing I've learned, the timing of this podcast is that I need to have a little something in my stomach. It doesn't need to be much. And I'm not a big I don't usually eat in the morning. And so just a little coffee with a little cream in it is what I needed. So I mixed it up, and before I left the house, I took a big drink out of it, and I poured coffee all down my front and had to go change my clothes. And so I said, yay, yay, I just spilled coffee on myself. Yay, I have to go change. Yay, I'm going to be a few minutes
Yippee
later than I
Lord.
wanted to be. Yay. I'm not going to tell you what even my experience is right now. I want everybody to if you're willing, to just try it. Just try it. The next time if you can do it to everything, that's the thing, do it to everything. Because everything that's showing up is of a divine nature, because there isn't anything else. So, right. So Amber's saying, I don't know what might have happened if I hadn't spilled the coffee. That's true. That's true. That delay. So there's also, there is always that invisible hand moving the pieces on the chessboard, right?
Yeah.
Because there is sort of a play in place here. And there are outcomes, there are desired outcomes on the part of divinity to have an experience, because that's why we're here.
Right. I want to add something
Sure.
on the yay subject, because a long time ago I saw, it was maybe a TED Talk or something, but it was this musical teacher, maybe conductor or something, teaching a master class with a young student, a cellist, maybe could have been a violinist. I think it was the cello though. Anyway, so he's teaching this master class with him, and there's an audience, and the kid makes a mistake, and the teacher tells him, when you make a mistake, celebrate it. When we make a mistake, our tendency is to sort of slump and, oh, darn. But most of the people in that audience don't know the music well enough to know for sure if you made a mistake. So when you make a mistake, just go, it's the same thing as the yay. I made a mistake. You feel that energy of, yes, I made a mistake. And your whole body language changes. And nobody in the audience, unless they're an expert, is going to know you made a mistake.
Right.
So it's the same concept. And it's been another useful concept I've been having for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, we've got about 2 minutes left, folks. And so I just want to let's see. I want to just respond to Amber. Exactly. A lot of times I believe in divine timing, right? And so who knows? Maybe I needed to be slowed down for a moment. Or maybe I just spill coffee. Some things are not necessarily packed with potent meaning.
Or they are, and we'll never know.
Or they are, and we'll never know. And staying in that place of mystery at all times, mystery and inquiry, will lighten up the energy in your life. I guarantee you, in a moment-to-moment basis.
Yes.
I wanted to go back and let's see. So, and then also Amber says, celebrate our mistakes, because that's all it is. And there's no need to beat yourself up. Absolutely. Because you're still divinity in form. And so you're still a function of divinity, even if you're making a mistake or doing something,
I just want to say very emphatically, never any need to beat yourself up over anything ever.
Exactly.
Never, ever.
Exactly.
And if you indulge in negative self-talk on a regular basis, just cut it out.
Right.
Think,
and you know what? Just go, if you catch yourself, go, yay, I'm doing negative self-talk. Yay. Yay, I'm observing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
When I notice myself judging, I'm like, oh, look, there's Mary judging,
Right. Because as Matt suggests, if we do it persistently enough, the ego you will break through that ego subconscious understanding and your ego can learn that you are divinity. You just have to teach it.
Yeah.
It can come to that realization, and it can stop running you the way it's running you now.
Yeah.
You just have to work with it. It won't do it on its own, though. So we're straight up. Nanette joined us at one point and was
Hi,
saying,
Nana.
regarding Mary's comment about breaking up will hurt. Truth, unfortunately, youth today find it nothing to break up in a text message. That hurts even worse. So she's got some thoughts on this. She'll come another time and spend more time with us. Sounds good. Remember, you can join us live. You can always call in, and you can call into the number 907-351-3003 at any time. You may reach me, or you'll reach voicemail. You can text to it as well. If you have a question and want to submit it that way, we'll bring it forward to the next podcast. And Mary, for those of you that aren't on video and can't see, Mary's email is marylaughsloud@gmail.com. You can also email your questions in to questions@walkingthroughyourwalls.com.
And let's just quick read Amber's last comment, which is, have faith that everything that is happening is supposed to be happening, or it wouldn't be happening. LOL.
Exactly. Because that is actually what it is. Now,
Yep.
I want to just, for the trauma community,
yes,
that can be hard to hear. And we understand that. And I think that the best way for the trauma community to try and work with this material is to get in touch with your divine source within. And once you make that connection, the guidance on how to deal with the trauma that you're experiencing will come to you. Mary, you have any last thoughts on that?
No, because it's too complicated for my brain right now.
Right.
So what you said, and yes, we can address that with more nuance if anyone needs us to next time.
Yeah. And if you have questions about it, don't forget, go ahead and submit them.
Please do.
Yeah.
Linda keeps them all so that we can address them in the future. So
absolutely. All right, folks. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And we'll hope to see you either live next time or on the replay. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining
Much love.
us.
Namaste.